Before we dive into today's episode, I just want you to know how much it truly means to me that you're here. Not just today, but as part of the entire podcast show. That you listen, that you come back, and sometimes even listen twice or three times, that you take those conversations into your life. And I'm really grateful for you and for you being here. And I couldn't think of a more fitting way to close out the year than with today's topic, which is on everybody's mind at the end of the year and definitely again at the beginning of the year. Because you didn't suddenly forget how to take care of yourself this year. But during the holidays, when everything feels louder and busier and more emotional, it can really feel that way. And when your body stops responding the way it used to, most women land on the same conclusion. It must be my metabolism. In today's final episode of the year, why your metabolism isn't the main villain in the midlife weight gain, I'm breaking down what's actually driving the change and why the shift in perspective can completely reset how you walk into the new year. Because once you stop fighting the wrong enemy, everything changes. This is the show for midlife women who want to stop second guessing and start feeling strong, focused, and fully themselves. I am Heike Yates, a midlife fitness expert and mindset coach. On the Pursue Your Spark podcast, I share simple, no-fluff strategies for movement, mindset, and nutrition so that you can stop spinning your wheels and start showing up with strength and confidence. Because thriving in midlife doesn't start with perfection. It starts with one bold step. Strong, confident, fully you. That's how we do midlife. Back in the 80s, when I first entered the fitness industry, cardio was king. It was Jane Fonda style workouts. The harder, the faster, the better. And we were also, in a way, discouraged to strength train, picking up weights. The weight room was only for the men, the big and bulky, burly men, and they lifted those big weights. We were taught to shrink ourselves, not just physically, I think also emotionally. And we were encouraged to use those tiny 2 or 3 pound weights and do a bazillion repetitions in order not to get big and bulky, which we're not, but also to tone our body. It was all about toning the body, staying small, staying thin and lean. A whole generation was trained to shrink and not build. That belief shows up clearly in our midlife bodies. Now, here's the truth that most people don't tell you. Yes, of course, your metabolism will slow down as we age, especially during and after menopause. On average, it drops about 1 to 2% per decade after 30. That part is real. I'm not denying that metabolism is not involved with our lack of progress. But here's where the conversation goes sideways. That small shift alone is not enough to explain the level of change most women experience in midlife. It doesn't account for the sudden feeling of softness in your muscles and body, the loss of strength, and the stubbornness of change. And you know what I mean by that. And that's why blaming your metabolism keeps so many women stuck. Because if it's just slow metabolism, the story ends here. But it doesn't. If a small metabolism slowdown can fully explain midlife weight gain, then something else has to. And if this is hitting home, the idea of unlearning old messages about your body, that's exactly why I wrote my book, Pursue Your Spark. It's all about breaking out of those midlife traps that we were handed so you can feel strong and confident. I leave a link in the show notes for you if you want to go deeper. And this is the part almost no one talks about. It's not how hard you're working. It's not your willpower. It's muscle, and it's hard-earned muscle. And what quietly happens to muscles in midlife changes everything about how your body responds. If you've been listening to the Pursue Your Spark podcast for a while, you know I talk very little, if at all, about weight loss and diets and the connection thereof. I feel that our circumstances are partially to blame if we're gaining weight and we're losing muscles. And also age, of course, but So many women tell me, I am active just like I have before, but I feel so much weaker. Most women don't know this, but we naturally lose 3 to 8% of our muscles every decade after 30. And after 50, that loss speeds up. So even if your habits haven't changed, your muscles have, and that changes everything about how your body responds. I want to mention a quick story here from one of my clients from my book. She came to me and she wanted to lose 15 pounds. And she said, I've been wanting to lose those 15 pounds forever. And it's never happens. I lose it, I gain it. I lose it, I gain it. But it's never staying off for good. I want you to design a diet for me that helps me with that problem. And I said, let's look at your lifestyle. What do you do for exercise? What do you eat? It's important. Yes, we incorporate that too. And when I looked at what she's been doing all along, she has not really lifted weights. She didn't go to the gym. She didn't lift weights, and she hadn't done any form of strength training. So I recommended to her that she just keep doing with her diet what she did before, and let's do Pilates. Let me add to this. Pilates builds, as we call it in Pilates terms, lean muscle mass. And it's not strength training the traditional way. Strength training is defined as working against an external resistance. So imagine you're picking up a dumbbell or stretchy bands, and you're working your arms with that stretchy band. That increases your muscle mass. We do similar things in Pilates, but Pilates doesn't have sets and reps like regular strength training. And so even though we're building muscle, it is not in the sense of a traditional strength training program, which I would recommend you incorporate too. Let's go back to my client. So we started with Pilates. We started strengthening her core. We started working on her posture. And over the course of time of about 6 to 8 months, when we kept measuring her body fat, she checked her weight. And after about 6 to 8 months, she said, I only lost 4 pounds. I want to lose 15 pounds. It should go faster, which of course it doesn't. And then I took her body fat, and she's lost 4% of body fat in just that short period of time by doing Pilates only. Then I encouraged her to do a little bit more strength training, either on her own or with me. And she kept losing more body fat, and she got stronger. Did she finally lose her 15 pounds? No, she lost 10. But she also gained a great amount of lean muscle mass. And so that's where a lot of women get confused. They're still moving. They're busy doing stuff, just like the client I mentioned, and yet they feel weaker than they have been in the past. So here's what's really happening. We're moving, we're staying busy, we're doing what we have been. Walking keeps us active, but that movement is not the same as strength training. It's good for the heart. When muscles aren't challenged on purpose, they are declining, as we just heard in my stats, and you feel weaker. The decline accelerates in midlife, especially after 40, as I said, and muscles are the engine that drives how the body uses energy. It also protects your joints. It helps with posture, balance, and bone strength. Walking is great for your heart, but it's not enough to signal to the body to hold on to muscle. As muscles decreases, fewer calories are burned, and that means fewer calories at rest. And the same efforts starts to produce smaller results. Does that starting to make sense? I have less lean muscle mass. I feel weaker. I don't do as much as I have been, even so it feels like it. The body begins to feel softer, weaker, and harder to change. And that's when I'm doing more, but getting less feeling shows up. You're working so hard, you're pushing that rock up the hill, and nothing seems to change. And even when your habits stay the same, your margin of error shrinks. And once you understand what's happened with your muscle, with your hard-earned muscle, the next piece usually lands with a little gut punch for all of us, because right about the time your body actually needs more support, more fuel, more strength, more recovery, most women do the opposite. They eat less. And that brings us to the next step of why we're staying stuck with our weight gain. If you've been feeling stuck or stretched thin, this is your reminder to do something just for you. Pursue Your Spark. My book, ebook, and audiobook will help you feel strong, confident, and inspired again. It's the perfect gift for yourself or another woman who needs that spark. You'll find it on Amazon Kindle, Apple Books, Kobo, Audible, and Spotify. And I also will put a link in the show notes for you. You're thinking eating less has to be the way because if I'm eating 800 calories, something has to happen. If I just really hardcore intermittent fast, like a 24-hour fast, the weight has to go down. And so you end up barely eating and you're wondering why you're so tired. Here's a wild statistic. Women who consistently eat less than their body needs are up to 3 times more likely to report daily fatigue, brain fog, hello menopause. So when you say, I barely eat, so why am I exhausted? This is why. And when you're exhausted, you don't want to do anything. This one surprises many of my clients a lot because it feels backward, right? You're eating less, so why do I feel worse? And why is my weight not coming off? Let's talk about what's really going on. Many women skip meals without realizing it, right? The morning gets busy. Breakfast turns into coffee. Lunch becomes like, oh, I'm in the car, I'm eating a bar. Dinner ends up being the main meal. And by then, you're super duper hungry and you grab anything inside. And one of my clients, I should say admitted, but she did admit it in the end. Different client than the one I mentioned. She says, I'm so busy at work. I don't have time. I run out the house, grab my coffee, then lunch is something small or sometimes nothing than more than coffee because I put cream in, so I do get some calories. But by the end, I come home exhausted. I open a bottle of wine, get crackers, cheese out, and go to town on it before I even start making dinner. And she was wondering why she had no energy, why she didn't lose the body weight, and why nothing changed. But the body doesn't recognize this as, this is the new norm. We're eating less, we're working with what we got. And sometimes I get the impression, or we think that, I have all this extra weight. I'm going to lose it because my body is going to eat up that extra weight. It's not. It reads it as scarcity, as survival. Energy drops early in the day. Fatigue shows up faster than it used to. Cravings scream at us, and the body becomes more efficient at holding on to our weight. And weight loss starts to feel harder, not easier. So it's that yo-yo syndrome. Well, it feels like a willpower problem is actually a fueling problem. Fueling, I refer to as energy, is any food that you eat. Undereating, layered on top of muscle loss, slows everything down. Trying harder by eating less definitely backfires. And this is when we erode our goals and what we're looking to achieve. And again, in this point, you're thinking, man, what am I eating? What are my habits? I want you to think about it while you're listening to this episode. And here's another informative statistic. Chronic undereating can lower your resting metabolism by as much as 15%, especially if you're dieting on and off for years. So yes, eating less can actually make your body hold on to more weight, not only weight, but also body fat. And here's the part most women don't see coming. When you're under-muscled, under-fueled, your body's already working harder just to get you through the day. Now let's add stress on top of that, not just busy stress, life stress. And that's where we head to next. If you're always on the go and struggle to find time for yourself, you'll relate to Maria's experience. Maria at 50 was constantly busy with work and family, and fitting in long workouts just wasn't realistic. When she found the Pursue Your Spark blueprint, it showed her how to incorporate movement into her day without feeling overwhelmed. She started sneaking in short Pilates sessions and stretches whenever she could. These small changes made a huge impact, and now she's more active than she's been in years without sacrificing time with her family. If you're like Maria and need simple ways to stay active, the blueprint might be exactly what you're looking for. Check it out with the link in the show notes. So far, we nailed down two culprits of why you gain weight in midlife. One was lack of muscle. The other one was under eating. Now let's talk about number 3, stress. Why did everything suddenly go to my middle, you may be asking? Studies show that chronic stress can increase belly fat by 20% or more, even when nothing else changes. So when you say everything went to my middle, there's a real psychological reason for that. And do you hear the theme as we're going through? What we do is really affecting the results we have. The one feels, because this one, the weight going to the middle feels really personal for a lot of us. Because it's not just physical, it's emotional, it's mental, and it may sound in your head like, is this where I'm going to be for the rest of my life? So let's look again at what is really happening. Stress in midlife, let's face it, it's not just an on and off button. It's there most of the time. Work pressure doesn't shut off. Family and caregiving demands add ongoing load. And if you're in the sandwich situation, like many of us, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this mental to-do list that we all have, and even the other lists that we write on our desk or on of our apps, are not turning off. The interesting thing is too that your body doesn't separate emotional stress from physical stress. Physical stress could be working out, which puts a stress on the body, but that can be or is a good stress for most of us. It processes all stress through the nervous system and hormones. When stress stays high, here is the kicker again, cortisol stays elevated. Elevated cortisol is linked to increased abdominal body fat. That everything went to my middle shift has a psychological reason. Sleep becomes lighter and less restorative, and we're not talking specifically about sleep, but I do want to touch on it. Recovery, which is so important at our age, takes way longer. And I had this conversation with my client who said, after I do my workouts, I feel wiped out. And so we talked about shortening her workouts, which I'm a big fan of because it doesn't have to take over your life. Shortened her workout to 20, 30 minutes. And had rest days in between her workouts. Instead of 5 days a week, 6 days a week, she is 1 day on, 1 day off. And that definitely helped with the exercise stress, but also the stress of fitting it all in. Her sleep became better and more restorative as well. So recovery is a big one. Energy feels less stable throughout the day. We have those insulin drops, and that's when we run to the coffee machine. That's when we run to get another snack out of our purse. The body adapts by conserving and holding on. And I said this earlier. Adding restriction, pressure, or self-criticism increases stress even more. So if you're hard on yourself, this is not helping. And more stress slows progress even more. And you say, well, I can't eliminate the stress in my life. It is there, but we can manage it differently. I want you to listen to another statistics. I have all these statistics today. Chronic stress doesn't just make you feel stretched thin. It actually shifts how your body stores fat. Research shows it can increase abdominal fat by 20% or more, even without eating more. So that's similar to the statistic I started with when everything goes to the middle. And this is the moment where everything comes together, because muscle alone doesn't do this. Food alone doesn't do this. Stress alone doesn't do this. But stack all three together, now you know why your metabolism isn't the main villain in midlife weight gain. It is the whole package. When you step back and really look at this whole picture about building muscle, undereating, and stress, it all becomes very clear of what to do next. Muscles have been quietly slipping away. No one told you it mattered this much. You've probably been eating less for years because that's what you were taught to do. And stress, that's just life right now. Each one of us has its own way of managing things. Together, they change how our body responds. So instead of trying harder, this is where I'd have you shift a few things. Nothing major, nothing big, baby steps as always. Maybe that means adding a couple of short strength training workouts into your walking. You can do it before or after, but please don't walk with weights in your hands. That just makes me always cringe. Separate them, really make it meaningful. Maybe it means you actually eat breakfast instead of pushing through on coffee. Or it's planning dinner early so you're not starving by the time you come home and eat instead of grabbing the crackers and the cheese and the bottle of wine. Or maybe you just give yourself permission to rest without guilt. Nothing dramatic. No big reset, no big reset button. Just small changes that tell your body, I've got you. And when your body finally feels supported like that, it responds, not because you were doing it wrong before, but because now you know what to do differently and stepping away from those old patterns that we've been taught in the past. If any of this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Maybe you've been turning down hikes and pickleball because you worry you'll slow everyone down. Or the shift in your marriage feels heavier than you wanted to admit. Or you love your grandkids, but the idea of keeping up all weekend feels, quite frankly, impossible. This happens to so many of us. Our world slows down, gets smaller, while we're busy holding everything together for everyone else. But it doesn't have to stay that way. You can feel strong again. You can get your energy back. You can reconnect with your body in a way that feels confident and alive again. And you don't have to figure it all out alone. If you want, send me an email and tell me what's coming up for you, where you feel stuck, what's been frustrating, and what you're longing to do next. I read every message personally, and I'll reply with one small insight you can use right away. Email me at heike@heikeyates.com. You can leave a message there, even a voice message. This could be the start of a chapter where your body supports your life again, not the thing that holds you back. As we close out this episode and the season of the Pursue Your Spark podcast, I want to leave you with this. You don't have to fix yourself over the holidays. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to start over on January 1st. You get to simply begin again with more understanding, more compassion, and better rules for your body in this season of life. Next time, we're talking about a fresh start with food that actually supports your New Year's goals without dieting, resetting, or restricting. And we'll look at why the way you've been taught to eat better might be exactly what's been making this harder than it used to be. If you want 2026 to feel sustainable instead of successful, don't miss out on this. I'll see you in the new year.